Everybody. My name is Dr. Hevron, and I am your professor this semester for POLS 2023-90, which is the honors section of Texas government. And I am coming to you live from the office at my house in Dallas. And I just said coming at you live. I'm not coming at you live. I'm recording this. I will post it to YouTube, and then I'm going to send you links, and you can hopefully save my YouTube channel. I don't even know if that's what you call it, so that you have easy access. And that is where you're going to be able to find most of the videos for the course. I will also attempt to embed them in Canvas, but sometimes that process works, sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, we will cross that bridge when we get there. I wanted to be on camera today for our first class, just to introduce myself so that you can see my face, and go through the syllabus and give you a bit of a primer on how the semester is going to work. And I'm sure y'all are so tired of hearing this, but this is obviously a semester when we're going to have to be flexible. We're going to have to be willing to change course depending on what happens with the virus, what happens at TWU, and everything else. And I should also mention sort of up front that this class, as you know, was originally scheduled to be a face-to-face course. And I made the decision about a month ago that I think I personally would be more comfortable if we treated the class as essentially an online class for now. That could be subject to change depending on what happens this summer, this fall with the virus. But for now, I think it's going to be online. I also have two small children at home. They're 4 years old and 2 years old. The 4-year-old is named Andrew and the 2-year-old is named Patrick. As of now, they are not back at school. Hopefully that will change in early September here in a week or two. But my wife works full-time as well, and her job is a little bit less flexible than mine, which means that I'm spending the majority of my time during the day with my two kids. And so what that means for us is that for now, our class has to be asynchronous, meaning that I will post these videos, I will record them in advance, I will post them to YouTube, I will send you the links, I will post PowerPoints, and I'm going to talk over the PowerPoints. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. And then we'll go from there. And that means that essentially for a while, a couple weeks at least, maybe a month or so, we will not be meeting live, even virtually. And this is not sort of how I would prefer to do things, but nevertheless, this is the hand that we have been dealt for now. And I should also warn you that I am a fan of just recording these videos in one take. So if I mess up or whatever, or my phone rings or anything else, then so be it. That's what's going to happen. My old senior citizen dog is here next to me somewhere. He snores a lot. Henry? I can hear him, but I can't see him. Oh, here, he's underneath the table. If he comes out and makes an appearance, I will hold him up to the camera and you can meet him yourself. He's a pug and he's like 13 years old. He's very old. But anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about the course. So hopefully you can see this next to me here. This is the syllabus, and oops, hold on a second. This is the syllabus for our course. It's posted on Canvas, and I just wanted to go through it briefly and talk about how the class is going to work. This is what we would have done on the first day had we been live in person anyway. So you're getting the real experience, I guess. All right, this photo is, of course, our governor, Greg Abbott, and the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick. They're each elected separately, so it's not like a president and a vice president. We'll talk much more about them later in the semester. But obviously, as you know, this is one of the required courses for the Corps here, not only at TWU, but in the Corps at any public university in the state of Texas. And as a result, I know that probably none of you, maybe just a handful of you, are thinking about having political science be your major for your college career. That's okay. I'm fully used to teaching this course to non-majors. I also am aware that if you're taking U.S. national government at the same time, which is Gov 2013, that this may be the last semester that you ever study the way that our political system works. And as a result, I take this class really seriously, and I love teaching it also because uh, I think it's really important, and if this is the last semester that you're going to be thinking about this stuff seriously, then let's treat it seriously. So, all right, on to the important information in the syllabus. I've mentioned most of this already, but the class will be, at least for the first part of things, entirely asynchronous, meaning that, we're not going to be meeting live, whether it's in person or on Zoom or whatever. As I mentioned, I'm going to be recording these videos. Normally, you won't see my face. They'll just be PowerPoint slides with me talking over them. But then I'll upload them to YouTube and I'll embed the links onto Canvas. I didn't mention this up front, but I would be actually quite interested if we can swing it, if my kids are in school, and I can get to Denton and everybody feels comfortable. But I think meeting outside on occasion would be something that I would be interested in doing. And I'm sure y'all have read the research as I have, but it seems pretty clear that the virus is not easily transmissible outside, and so I feel pretty comfortable being outside. All right. So, and of course, if anybody tests positive, or if I test positive, or my kids, or my wife, or whoever, the most important thing for me is that we are upfront with each other and that we are communicative. I'm willing to go to great lengths to help you out if you're having trouble, right? If you get sick or if somebody who's close to you gets sick. But I can't help you if I don't know about it, right? So please just tell me what's going on, tell me what you're going through, and we'll try and tackle it together. Because otherwise, it's going to be tough. All right. So there are 5 books required for this course. A few of you have sent me an email asking what CGHS is. CGHS is just my abbreviation of the textbook. So Collier, Galatis, Harrelson, Stevens. The textbook is Lone Star Politics, Tradition and Transformation. I accidentally wrote 5th edition right here. There is a 6th edition that came out from 2019. It's the edition that is in the bookstore. If you've already bought the 5th, that's okay. But the 6th is going to be the most updated version. And then we have 4 additional books that we'll be discussing excerpts from for the rest of the semester. Boy Kings of Texas is the first. It's a memoir about Domingo Martinez's experiences growing up in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. John Graves's Goodbye to a River, which was a book that he wrote about a canoe trip down the Brazos River in the 1960s. The Brazos River runs in sort of the middle western part of the state. The third book is North Toward Home, which is about Willie Morris's experience as a college student at the University of Texas at Austin in the 1950s. And then finally, Friday Night Lights, which you guys may be familiar with or maybe not, but Friday Night Lights is nominally about high school football in West Texas and Odessa, but in reality, it's about much, much more than that. And so we'll be reading these books throughout the course of this semester, and obviously they're not, with the exception of the first one, they're not textbooks. They don't talk about how many seats are in the state Senate. They don't talk about the Texas House of Representatives, our Constitution. None of that is mentioned in them at all. But what I think that they're really valuable for, and the reason why I assign them, is because I think they can teach us so much about what it means to be a Texan right now, right? And even if the books were written 40 or 50 years ago, the questions that they pose are, increasingly relevant and timely, in my opinion. So, all right, on to the course format. We're going to have a midterm exam. It's going to take place on Wednesday, October 14th. I am going to post the exam on that day. You'll have a couple of days to complete it. It'll be due on October 16th. We'll talk much more about these dates, so I'm just going to skim them for now. And then in addition to the midterm and the final, which I'll get to in a second, you're going to have a 2-part writing assignment for the course, which when you take both parts together is worth 30% of your grade. And essentially you're going to take an issue in Texas politics and you're going to analyze sort of which branch of government in Texas has been most responsible for its creation. I'll talk much more about this later in the semester. In addition to my sort of requirements for papers, you're also going to be submitting discussion board assignments. You're going to have 4 of them. They're worth 5% each. Those should already be on Canvas. You can go in and see them. And they're about the books that I mentioned earlier. And these are the criteria for you getting all of the available points on the discussion board assignments. You've got to be specific. You have to respond to a classmate's post. You have to do it all by the deadline. Use correct spelling, punctuation, grammar, etc. And then our final exam in the course is going to be posted on Monday, December 7th. And much like the midterm, you'll have 2 days to complete it, and it'll be due on Wednesday, December 9th. You'll also have 10% of your grade will be comprised of participation. So as for policies, it's a pretty boring part of the syllabus, but I think we should spend some time talking about it. So also apologies for that I keep looking down, but there's a mosquito in here, and it's biting my legs. So I'm sorry. All right. So if we do meet in person, you got to wear a mask, right? It's pretty obvious. Secondly, if you need assistance with whatever, you can contact the Disability Support Services on campus, and they will, help you out with testing requirements, note-taking, any of that stuff. Deadlines in the class are firm. If you miss a deadline and you don't tell me why, you're going to have points deducted from your grade. Again, I know that this semester is crazy. It's going to be crazy. Hadn't even started yet, but it's going to be crazy. And, if you need some extra time for whatever reason, just tell me. And I'm willing to work with you, but I can't work with you if I don't know in advance that you need help. What else? We'll talk much more about plagiarism when the final papers or the paper and then the final paper are discussed in class, but in short, don't cheat. It's much better to cite too much in terms of your sources than to cite nothing at all. Again, we'll talk much more about this later in the semester. I am one of the parts of the semester that actually sort of most bums me out, the fact that we're doing it this way, is that I'm really not going to be available for in-person office hours ever. That's not to say that we can't discuss things in person at the same, or not in person, but discuss things at the same time. I'm still, again, it's going to be depending on my kids' schedule, but if my kids are in school, then I will hold kind of like an open Zoom space every time, every week at the same time, maybe a couple times a week. And you're welcome to pop into that and ask me any questions that you want to, and we'll see how that works. And if it's not working well, then we can talk on the phone, we can exchange emails. There are other options for us to think about, but that's kind of something that I'm still working through. And then finally, this is kind of my caveat for every political science course that I teach, but talking about politics, especially right now when we're all under a lot of pressure, can be a very emotional, kind of fraught experience. Some people are conservative, some people are liberal. I promise you, I don't care which one you are, or if you're in the middle, or if you think politics is boring and you don't think it matters to you. I'm not going to judge you. It's not going to affect your grade if you fall into any of those categories. My hope is that we treat this the opposite of church camp, right? So if any of you have been to church camp, you know that for some of you at least, the end result of church camp may be to leave converted. That's not the end result for this course. If you change the way that you think as a result of this course, or change your political beliefs, that's fine. But what I really, really want you to do is to put your beliefs under a microscope and critically examine them, whether you're liberal or conservative. Try to think about why you've come to the conclusions that you have come to. And if at the end of the semester you still think the way that you thought or you're thinking now, then that's okay. But I do want to sort of teach you how to think, right? All right, let's spend a little bit of time going through the schedule. So I'm thinking that the way that this course is going to work is I'm going to post probably either one video, one kind of longer video, or one set of videos a week. So even though we have class on Monday and Wednesday, I'm going to try to not post new content on 2 different days. I'm going to try and do it all on one day. So even though there are 2 days here, you can see Monday, obviously, and then Wednesday, my goal is to get it all done on one day, except for this week. This is just going to be an introduction video, and I will actually take Wednesday's content and make a separate video and post it to YouTube. But in this first week, we're going to be discussing a little bit of Texas history. So for those of you who are from the state and went to public school here, you know that you cover Texas history as a 7th grader. We're not going to go in depth, but we are going to talk about the ways in which Texas history informs its current politics and its current political climate. And you'll see that the readings here, so CGHS, which again, you guys have asked me about already, that's the textbook, right? So you got to read chapter 1 by Wednesday. Then you have to read these 3 articles. If I mention that an article is online, that means that you can find a link to it in Canvas. If the link doesn't work, it should work, but you can also just Google how California bested Texas, the New Yorker, and a link will show up. If it is a PDF, it should be linkable in Canvas as well, but if it's not, then you can go to course files, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So week 2, we're going to be talking about the Texas constitutions. There's a lot of them. We'll talk about why that is. Your discussion board post number 1 is due at the end of next week. So if you have not, which of course you haven't yet probably, but you should start reading the excerpt from North Toward Home by Willie Morris as soon as possible. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that book in Wednesday's lecture. Week 3 concerns the Texas legislature. Week 4 concerns how the legislature is organized and what the legislative process looks like. Week 5 is about the Texas governor. The discussion board post number 2 is due at the end of that week. And that's on Goodbye to a River by John Graves. Then we're going to get to the plural executive and the bureaucracy. The last week of September, the judicial system, the first week of October. And then we're going to have the midterm, and there will be a review session. I'll talk more about that later. And the actual exam, which again will be posted online. It's going to be open book. It's going to be open note, which everybody, I'm sure, prefers. But just know that if a test is open book and open note, my expectations go from here to here. After the midterm, we'll talk about criminal justice in Texas and focus primarily on the death penalty, because that is something that Texas is pretty unique in its use of the death penalty. Week 10, we'll talk about campaigns and elections. Then we'll move into political parties, how the Republicans have sort of taken over in Texas, and whether their reign in state politics will be long-lasting, or whether there are some cracks in that facade at the moment. The third book, The Boy Kings of Texas, the discussion board post over that book will be due the first Friday in November. Then we'll jump into interest groups, local government, fiscal education, and social policy, which is right before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving will be on Thursday, November 26th this year. That Monday, the Monday of Thanksgiving, is discussion board post number 4, which is on Friday Night Lights. Then we'll spend the final week of class doing a review session and then wrapping up the semester. Your final writing assignment for the semester is due on Monday, November 30th. And the exam will be the following week. So that's the syllabus. I encourage you to read it on your own. I encourage you to hit me up with any questions, which some of you have already done, which is great. But for now, I'm going to log into Canvas real quick and show you. Hold on. What our course's Canvas shell looks like. Hopefully you've already seen it. But we can spend a little bit of time making sure that it is good to go. Okay, so this is what Canvas looks like for me. I don't know what it looks like for you because I'm not a student. But nevertheless, this is our course. And we see here, you got the various weeks, and this is going to be very short, but if you click in here, then you can see the readings. And you can see the topics. This is basically the same stuff that's in the actual syllabus, but you can see that there are links here. So just click the link, and then the article, the reading for the week should show up. I should also mention that I believe, and I froze, but I believe that the textbook is on reserve in the library. So if you need it, you can contact information desk at twu.edu and ask them to make copies of the chapters and send you those scans. And I will post a new video by Wednesday, which is when we'll talk about Texas history. And in the meantime, I encourage you to go into the discussion board link over here on the side and post the intro discussion board, which is something that I want you to do this week so that we can get to know each other a little bit. And that'll just about do it for today's little video. So please don't hesitate to ask me if you have any questions, and I will check back in on Wednesday. All right, guys, I'm looking forward to a great semester. I hope you are too. Bye.